Okay. Kayla got the 111, number one. Sipping lemonade, throwing light shade. Only have other remains.
I just Kayla got the 411. I'm back for another What's Good episode. I'm here with the beautiful Kayla Thompson. You know, they say Kayla's are beautiful, so I was so excited to have you on. And since this segment is called What's Good with you and your mental health, like, how are you doing right now?
That's a good question. I love that. And thank you, by the way. Yeah, from Kayla to Kayla.
Yes.
Really cool. But wow, I love that question. I'm doing good. I had a bit of a funk today. I think it's just because it was rainy here where I live. But yeah, I've been doing good though. I have like my little meditation practices, pray a little bit, and then I'm like, all right, I'm cool. So
you said the word funk, because I've been in a funk some days. A lot of people that I talk to, it's like you wake up and you're like, you don't really know what's wrong. You just know,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Could be the rain, because I'm in Georgia, so it could be everybody on the East Coast is getting rain. But I don't know what it is, but I like asking you all what's good with you all, especially when you come onto somebody's show. We're from the South. It's just hospitality to ask somebody, how are you doing? And sometimes when you ask people that, sometimes they're not always good. So I like answering that. And since you have a song called Younger that came out in March, a beautiful, beautiful song. Take me back to when you were younger. Like, what were you listening to?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that. So when I was growing up, I grew up in the church. So my parents, playing gospel, Christian, contemporary music. But also my parents were like really well-rounded, music listeners. So, I mean, of course, Michael Jackson and Prince, but also like Elton John and, like other singer-songwriters like that. Shania Twain, my mom loved Shania Twain. And even James Taylor. I think actually James Taylor was probably the first time I recognized like songwriting as a kid. And so, those are like a good medley of influences I had when I was younger, just as like
that explains your style of music, because your music seems very personal, even from the titles to the cover art. Do you actually write from a personal experience, or do you kind of reach from family and friends on what they've been through?
Mainly from my personal experience. But then as I'm writing, sometimes I was telling my aunt the other day, because she kind of asked me about that with one of my songs, and because it was a really sad song that I wrote. It's actually the song I just recently released, but and she was like, did you go through this like level of heartbreak? And I was like, well, I mean, no, I think at the beginning I was feeling, how I felt about, the content of the song, but then I kind of will follow like the trail of the story, and then I'll pull from like, friends or family or whoever I know, like even sometimes TV shows I'm watching, just like bits of stories. But mostly, it's from my personal life.
Have you ever had like anybody that you dated like say, hey, that song, that was about me?
Yo, actually, yes.
I figured that. I had another artist on here. She's a songwriter too. So interesting. She said she ran into him at like a grocery store, him and his mom, and they was like, "Hey, that song."
We know. No. So yeah, he was one of my like. We were always gonna be friends or gonna stay friends. But yeah, it was like I don't know how to explain it, but we were just like hanging out, and I was like, oh, I wrote this song, that because we were like talking about songs we wrote, because he's an artist as well. And so at the time we were like a kind of a thing or whatever, and we were just sharing songs, back and forth, and I was like, oh my god, I just wrote this new song. And like as I said it, I was like, oh, it's about, I didn't remember that it was about him, but he was like, oh, let me hear it. And I'm like, no, it's okay. He's like, no, let me hear it. I'm like, okay. So I play it for him, and he's like, is this like about us? And I was like, yeah, kind of.
Right.
But he was actually cool about it.
It's not like mainly it's bad. I mean, I think we heard
he said it was great. He said it was like, this is so beautiful. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, But no, it was fun. Usually like I'll show my friends my songs and they're like, oh, that's about so and so, that's about so and so. And I'm like, all right. But
It gotta be therapeutic too, like a diary almost, like getting all of that stuff out because
yeah.
I feel like it's so many of us women, we go through the same things and you never really know that someone else is going through it until you listen to music. Music is just one big diary. All you do is listen to everybody. It depends. When you're a writer and a songwriter, I feel like you all can put your own feelings on paper, which is very, very important. Now, I know your aunt said that the music was sad, but I think your music is very uplifting.
I hope so.
It's positive. I think the best word is more positive, even though some songs may be sad and going through heartbreak. But you also do a lot in the community also. Tell me about Projects of Hope.
Oh, yeah. So Projects of Hope is an NGO that my mom started like years ago. But when around like 2015, I went on our first trip to Kenya, because my mom usually will go to Kenya and they'll do sustainable building projects at like a school. Usually it's in Lari, Kenya. It's just a community that she ended up getting connected with. And so yeah, we'll go there for like a week. We'll do a sustainable building project, which when I say that, I guess I mean usually like missionaries will come in and kind of like give gifts or give pencils or whatever like that, which is cool. But what we do is like, okay, how can we help the school, fix their well so they can have water? How can we like help them create a profit so they can have money to have lunch at school? So we built like a dairy farm. We bought cows so that they could sell milk, and like really cool. And I mean, so we do that. And then we also will put on like a camp. So we'll have like art and health classes and PE, because those are things that they, most schools in rural parts of Kenya won't have. So we'll do that. And so, yeah, I'm usually like the art, lead, or I'll sing songs with the kids. But I'm also, it's really fun. I have some videos, I think one video on my YouTube channel of it, and usually I'm the photographer too. So I get to help out with my mom a lot, and I'm on the board of the organization. So that's been awesome to just be a part of something bigger than yourself, or to help people in that way. Yeah. And I didn't realize I would love it as much as I did when I went, but yeah, you end up connecting with the kids. And
how did they react to you singing? Like, I know they just love that, like just coming there and just using your talent, not even having a bunch of cameras and, photo ops, just in the moment. Like, how did they react to it?
Yeah, I mean, they sing all day, like every day. So if I start singing anything, they're like geeked, they're amped about it. But I think the cool thing about it being someone like me, or like most of our team that when we go, is people of color. So they're usually mesmerized that we're like, to be honest, not white, like that we're Americans that are people of color helping like other people of color, So they're usually kind of like always talking about our skin, or like our I don't know, like they're almost like confused that we're American, but we're not like white people. Which is interesting.
I think so interesting because I even like came across a documentary where there are white people that live in Africa. Like, so
that's true too.
And they seem to be the ones that actually go out there sometimes and help out and into the schools. I don't really see many, big time celebrities, especially of color, like saying, hey, I went out here and helped. It's okay to help your community. I live in Atlanta. You see rappers, they go out and do these kids drive, these Easter drives. But, there's other worlds out here too, girl. A few pencils and papers, that like goes a long way. I can just imagine.
It does. Yeah, it goes a long way. But even for us, like we'll give the pencils, like I said, we'll do those things. But what really goes a long way is like going to like the root of like the need of the school, which is, okay, how can we, fix something kind of integral so that when we leave, it's not like, oh, we can't, they're gone. So now we don't got, we don't have that help or whatever. It's like, okay, having the well or having like the farm that can continue to create money so they can continue to have lunch or continue to have, those things that they need.
That's amazing.
So it's really fulfilling, but also it's good to know that you're like actually doing something progressively helpful. Yeah. So it's been dope.
That's amazing. Using your voice and using your platform to do something amazing. See that people like, come on now. Now,
listen, honestly, it's my mom, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the way you're talking about it seems like, as time goes by, like you're going to be the one that's like the forefront and running it, and your kids are probably going to be in your stage. It's going to be like a family thing. And I think that's amazing what you and your family is doing, always helping out. And I'm pretty sure they appreciate it as well. Now, you all, we are outside now. You're in North Carolina. What is like there? Like, are you all outside? Because I'm in Atlanta. They never closed down with the pandemic.
Oh, the pandemic. Yeah. Yeah. North Carolina, I mean, certain parts, had closed down for a bit, especially in the beginning, but now it's like, yeah, masks are optional everywhere. But for me, like, I mean, I just got back to North Carolina from LA like a week and a half ago. So I wasn't used to like just no masks everywhere, because most of the time they're still like, have a mask, or at least like have your vaccination card on you. But yeah, like here it's just like hey man, you're fine. Just come in. It's okay. You don't need a mask.
Affect you creatively. I know a few LA artists, they were saying like, I know they're very particular about that card, and shout out to LA. I think we should have did something like that in Georgia. How did it affect you creatively, going to the studio, like, or do you have a studio at home?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, mostly I still did some Zoom sessions. Oddly enough, a lot of the people I was writing with were like not even in LA. I was working with like a team out there who were helping me connect and all that kind of stuff. But they had me like doing sessions with people in London and everything, cool places like that. So I ended up being in Zoom most of the time anyway. But when I wasn't, people were pretty like, it was like close-knit kind of session. So it wasn't like, it was like someone's like house studio or like, stuff like that. Or when I did shows, it'd be like, okay, you have to show your vaccination card, and venues like that, it was just like your vaccination card. So it didn't really help too much. Yeah, it didn't really help too much, but yeah.
Did you continue to write, or did you go through that thing called writer's block?
Yeah, I went to writer's block. You talking about like the show runner?
No, writer's block is when you're like, like you just sit down, you want to write, you got the music, and like, I can't think of one word.
Oh, did I go through writer's block? Sorry.
There's a place in LA called writer's block, right?
Yeah, there's a place in LA called writer's. It's like a show running, I guess, organization or company. I don't know what to call it, but yeah, I did a show with writer's block. But I know exactly what you mean. Did I go through writer's block? Is what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like I go through writer's block all the time. It's like I'm in a constant state of writer's block sometimes. But no, I think that's just because like I'm still pretty, in my opinion, still pretty new to songwriting. Like I started writing songs when I was like 20, so I'm 26. So yeah, and so I'm always kind of like figuring it out all the time, and I really take my time to write songs sometimes. Right. So I feel stumped a lot, but then I'll like get through it and kind of like continue the idea and end up finishing it. But
it's a creative thing. Yeah. I think all creatives, they get through that. Do you have somebody like around you where you're like, you know what? Hey, friend, come over here and let's do some writing together? Because sometimes that helps too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Co-writing is so helpful. Yeah, I usually will. Actually, most of my writing friends, again, it's funny, they're virtual, so it's like do a FaceTime. Shout out to
I've met so many amazing people through like Zoom and Instagram. Right? Like the pandemic, it allowed me to meet a lot of amazing people. I will say that.
Same. Yeah. It's like I have so many more friends from like other Instagram, I did a lot of Instagram covers in the beginning of the pandemic. So I had like mad Instagram friends, like artist friends and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll like call one of them, we'll write together I'll just send them the song idea and they'll be like, oh, you could kind of think of it this way or whatever like that. And I'm like, oh, this is so dope. But my uncle is actually, yeah, it's definitely a way around it. But I was going to mention too, my uncle is a songwriter. like and a touring artist. So he's actually a huge help for me. So I'll hit him up and he'll kind of.
So you come from a musical background, like were you like heavily in the church and the choir? Because I feel like everybody I talk to on this show, even I sung in the choir. Okay,
yeah,
I went from a soprano to an alto. Once I got into the teenage years, everybody started in the church. Like, was your entire family like into the music scene?
Yeah, well, so I think maybe more like on stage is what I'd say. But my dad is a pastor. My dad's the oldest of 8, and my grandfather is a bishop. So it's like he started a church in Boston, and then my dad, came here, started a church. My other aunts and uncles are either like pastors or singers or songwriters. So yeah, at one point a couple of my aunts and uncles had like an actual group, like a singing group where they like went on tour. They went on tour with I don't know if you know the artist Natalie Grant, but they opened up for her on tour.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
So they had a group called Ashmont Hill that was like kind of like they were popping off a little bit. And their songs were like, I'm not even trying to be biased, but them songs was killing. Like,
okay, I'm gonna go listen. I already got my iTunes sitting here looking like, okay, I'm gonna be here and listen to it.
Yes, their songs are so good. Ashmont Hill, their songs are amazing. But yeah, so I grew up around that, and yeah, of course it's funny because I was always able to sing, but I was really, really scared to sing. So it's like, even though I was raised, around music and with people who had like all these stage gifts, I never really wanted to use mine until later on, like after, like in the middle of college. So it's like I was around it, but I wasn't like, I didn't feel like the pull to do it until kind of later. But it did help. I think, instill a lot.
How did you get out of it? Like, getting out that fear of like, actually, okay, I'm going to take this serious. I'm going to make this an actual career.
Yeah. To be honest, it was like after I saw, because I felt like at that time I was like 19 and I was like kind of starting to sing for real. Like I did the talent show my senior year of high school, and it was like, it honestly was like one of those movie moments where I didn't ever show anyone at school that I could sing. Only people at church knew. So I did the talent show and I sang for the first time ever, and people were like freaking out, like oh my God, what? And I was playing guitar and these things. And so the response from like my entire school, it was like weeks after that, people wouldn't stop talking about it. I feel like I'm like gassing myself, but I think it just showed me like, oh shoot, this is kind of legit. Maybe I should take it seriously. And then went to college, and let me back up. When I surpassed my fear and just did the talent show, I was like, okay, I can do it. And people responded well, and I felt really great. Maybe I should keep doing this. So
that's all you need sometimes. Yeah. It's like sometimes people can see things in you that you can't necessarily see in yourself. Like I'm a big believer in that. Like you can always hear like those little things, like the lady at the church, like, oh baby, you got a voice on you.
Right.
Or the aunt is like, oh baby, you got a voice. You keep hearing it, but I'm pretty sure like when everybody at the school, because I know how people dramatic, they probably like, oh my God.
Right.
You probably like, exactly okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh shoot. And so yeah, but then I ended up like seeing, like I would go and sing, and I would see people being like genuinely affected, like on the inside by what I was doing. And so it felt like, again, like something bigger than me, like I was using my voice to help somebody, which I don't know, it kind of sounds weird to say, but yeah, I started writing about like anxiety and fear, like just writing about it. And then I did a song called Deep Breath, and I sang that and would play that at like open mics and stuff like that, or a show or whatever. And people were coming up to me like just saying how much they relate, or crying, or whatever the response was, of just like something of depth. And I was like, okay, I think this is like really something legit I should really seriously do. And then I felt like God was pushing me to do it full time, and like this was my purpose. So I was like, all
It's
right, if
healing
God said it,
music.
it's legit. If God said it, it's really for real. So
Exactly.
like,
And it's
all right.
healing music. Like I know everybody's experiencing anxiety, just depression. I think more people have been talking about their mental health during the pandemic. So I think you have a great body of work where people can like listen to and say, okay, wow, somebody else feels the same way that I feel. If they not, like, they wrote it, so they must know how I feel. People really, really need that these days.
Yeah.
It's only so much work music we can have, you all. like, come on, we gotta get more in depth. Now we're gonna get to know you a little better. Now I'm gonna ask you a few questions based off your latest single called "The Remains," and this is gonna help viewers get to know you better. Okay, you ready?
All right, cool. All right, I think so.
So it's really simple, really fun. So the first one is, do you throw away remains from a past relationship that reminds you of them?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good. Yeah, for
Me
sure.
too. Yeah, everything got to go.
Yeah,
Texts,
everything has to
pictures.
go. Yeah,
But do
deleting
you,
all the pictures off my phone, for sure. And especially because I'm just like, I can't have any evidence of like hope. That sounds really bad, but I guess I just mean that to say like I don't want to say, oh, maybe we might get back together, and then it's like I never stop thinking about it because I kept this stuff or I kept these pictures, or and then I'm kind of like leaving the door open when in reality, for him it
that's
might be
a good
like, nah.
even those text messages, like you know how like you up late at night, I'm gonna read this wonderful text
And
message.
you like put yourself back into the
Back
whole
again,
experience
just
of
delete it.
experiencing the
Delete
breakup.
all 100, delete the entire thread. It's gonna hurt, but you can't go back and read it. I think it definitely helps. Next, can you still be friends with an ex even if you love someone else?
Ooh, I think that if you're with someone else, like my instinct is to like ask who I'm with at the time, like, are you comfortable with me being friends with? Because I might be comfortable, like, oh no, that's been done, like that's deaded. We're just cool, we're just friends. But if that makes like my new significant other feel uncomfortable, then I would like stop contact. But if he was like, oh, I'm cool, then I'd be like, okay, it's fine. But I think sometimes it's possible, but sometimes it's not. Like to be friends with your ex, I don't know. It depends. To me,
Yeah,
I'm
depends
like,
on the ex. Depends on he's okay. Like this is a friendship.
Right.
Okay. There's no more. The door is closed.
Yeah. Like if you cross certain boundaries, I feel like it does make it cringy or kind of awkward. But if you didn't, if you were just like, oh, we were just kind of like talking or a thing maybe, but we could just go back to being friends then.
Yes, I agree. And last, what advice would you give a friend who misses their ex?
Oh man, what advice would I give? Okay. I mean, first I would just sympathize with them. Like it makes sense to miss them, It probably wasn't all bad, there was a reason you broke up, and maybe bring that to the forefront of your mind when you're trying to move on. But I guess don't make yourself feel bad about missing them, but kind of like, okay, face that, accept that, I guess. And then I would just distract yourself maybe in good ways. I don't know, like, yeah. First of all, make sure you delete it. Like we said, delete all the remains. Like get rid of stuff, like delete the pictures. That stuff has to go, the hoodie, the whatever.
And stop checking social media too. Like, oh my God.
Oh yes. Mute them on social media. I definitely still have somebody that I like. Yeah, I still have him.
Me too, girl. I got a fake page. I feel so bad. I'll be watching.
I'm like, my friends are like, did you see what so-and-so? I'm like, nope, sure didn't. I have no idea what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Zero. I honestly forgot. So
that's great advice. Wow, I think I need to take that advice as a friend. Be a little bit more compassionate. I was like, I'll definitely say, girl, he's horrible. Like, leave it alone.
Oh, right. Oh, that. Yeah.
And that may not be the good approach. I think kind of just, it's okay to miss some. Then I kind of ease it on there.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, all right, but then you need to cut it off though. Like
exactly. Now the song called "The Remains," is that the song that you said your aunt said was really sad?
Yeah.
What was the whole inspiration behind that? Was that based off of a personal experience, or you just use inspiration from someone else?
Yeah. So writing it, it was at first it was a like a co-writer artist friend of mine. He sent me the idea and I was like, okay, that's literally something that I've experienced before. Where it I think it's just like a general thing of um, you know, you're reminiscing on that relationship of like you miss that person and you miss like the things that you guys would do together, but in that the same time I wanted to also make sure the narrative of like, yeah, but breaking up with them or leaving them was the best thing for me even though it was hard. Like there's a line in there where I'm like, you wish I'd stay but I think I'm better alone, like honestly it's just the best thing for me. So um and then yeah, so that's kind of the inspiration, but I think it's not like a specific story. I think it's just more the essence of what it's like on the tail end of a breakup when you're in between like, should I have broken up with them? I miss them. Like, can we go back? Like, even in the bridge of the song, I'm like, can we go back to July before I like said goodbye? And because we did all these things and it was so nice, it was so great. But at the end of the day, this probably was the best thing for me. So it's kind of like that tension, you know. Um, so yeah.
It's this girl on TikTok. She's actually been documenting her breakup week by week. And those first 3-4 weeks, oh my gosh. Like when I started crying too, I said, you know what? I'm about to take a break from her. this is too much for me. And kind of what she went through is kind of similar to like that song that you have. And when I listened to it, I thought of her. I actually started to send it to her and things like it really is I say that heartbreak, it really is a pain that I do not ever want to experience ever again. It's kind of like you hurting, but you can't like take medicine for it. You just got to heal with time. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And you don't know how long that time is. So I think songs like that, your music is very meaningful, have an angelic voice. So what's one thing that you want listeners to take from your music?
Oh man. I think the main thing is I just want people to, like how you were saying earlier, you know, not feel alone. Cause at first when I'm writing or, you know, about something, I'm like, does anyone gonna understand? Like, even I'm like, is anyone gonna understand this or have been through this? And then I do, and people are like, oh my gosh, I'm literally like living this lyric right now. And so just knowing that people relate and don't feel by themselves is awesome. But I think also, like, I thank you for you know the comment of my voice, because I do believe that like my voice can like have an effect just like on its own, and I really would love to keep making music that feels immersive and feels like it's not just the lyrics that I'm writing, but like the melody itself and like the tone of my voice can kind of
you read my mind. I was thinking about
someone.
Even people
cool.
like A-Code, like sometimes you have them like nice shower, light a candle, and you have that tone of that singer's voice. And I'm really in particular, you know how sometimes some singers are just really loud for no reason. Like, you know what, just bring it. I can't really connect with the words the way I do. So I feel like with your music, you can hear every word and feeling. I think that's probably why a lot of people will relate to it also.
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So you're welcome. Now your dad is a pastor now. I did catch on to that later. Like, how do they feel about your music? Like, do you feel like the pressures of like making more positive music being that your dad is a pastor?
Yo, that's a great question. I think I felt that like pressure when I first did music, but it wasn't even from him or any outside like church members. It was kind of just from me. Like I thought that they would be upset that one, I didn't want to be a Christian artist, but also two, that I wanted to like not necessarily sing about God. I have before, like younger is kind of it's kind of really about my trusting in God. But anyway, yeah. I think what I found though is that people were really supportive, and my parents were really supportive of me doing like, you know, alternative singer-songwriter, pop, whatever kind of music you want to put me in. And they kind of felt like, you know, because I am a like believer and I have a relationship with God, and so they were really like supporting me to go into these spaces and put music out that does have positive light, that's not about Jesus, but it's just like shining light with inspiration of Jesus. And honestly, Tori Kelly was like a huge like impact for me in seeing someone do that, you know, going to her show and seeing her affect people.
Now I'm not thinking about it. Isn't it, there's a term for it? Is it called like inspirational music? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I know Tori does like pop music, but I think I think all artists in a way can be super inspirational. But I think for her, it was like I was seeing her sing. I was like at a show, seeing her sing and seeing her just shine her light. Honestly, she was just being herself. And even that was, I was seeing people in the audience like crying or like just being affected by her inner, like honestly her inner Jesus. But they didn't,
that voice of hers
wasn't something that had to be said. Oh my gosh. And yeah, her voice is crazy. Like she sounds like a record every time. It makes no sense. But
I can just imagine, like speaking of her, I haven't really heard much from her.
No, she's been I think she's been writing a lot more. She did that movie Sing too. So that came out like in Christmas or something last year. So.
And I think a lot of more artists, they're getting the feel for it. You know, a lot of them spent the pandemic with their family. They kind of looked at it like, we're down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm down. I don't want to do music. I don't want to write. Let me just focus on my family. And you need that because this business definitely has a dark side to it. So taking a few, we've been on 2 years now, a year and a half for a break. That's understandable. So since we're towards the end now, what can we expect from you for the rest of the year? Because you do have a new single out. Do you do a video for it, a visual?
Yeah. So we did the Remains lyric video. We have a lyric video up on my YouTube channel right now. But I literally was just talking to my managers, and we want to put out like an acoustic, more stripped down version of the Remains. So that should come out in a couple weeks. And I'll probably do like a live version on my YouTube channel as well. But I have a lot of songs like in the queue ready to go. So I'm excited about just more music, and they're all kind of, they all feel like me and sound like me, but they're all kind of different vibes. And so I'm curious to see what lands with certain people. But yeah, that's what you can expect from me definitely till the fall. I don't know what's gonna happen then. Maybe like project. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I was thinking that like an EP or something, you know.
Yeah. That'd be really dope. It's definitely a tough thing though as an independent artist, like getting all your music recorded and mastered and like trying to find the right.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Most of you all on this segment are independent, and it's like, you know, I think I asked one person, I was like, "Where is song is coming out?" And it was like, "Hey, you know, I'm independent. It'll come out when it comes out. You don't really have a deadline." But I guess that's a good part. You don't have anybody pressuring you to put out music that you really don't feel safe and comfortable with. So I guess that's the good part of being independent. Yeah. So, hey,
it's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will say thank you so much. Seeing Kayla, and I'm Kayla, is so hard.
I know. I'm like, thanks, Kayla.
Right? I don't meet a lot of Kaylas. There's not many of us at this age because I'm 30. Most of the Kaylas are like younger, like kids. Like,
it must be like coming back around.
Yeah, like I think it's coming back around and stuff like that. But I don't meet a lot of Kaylas that are actually grown up and adult, especially Black Kaylas as well.
It's true. So I don't meet a lot of Black Kaylas, mostly like Michaela.